أن يكون هناك طلقات تحذيرية
This is basically what's been happening in Gaza for the last 6 months. There's a big chance you have more bombs than raindrops falling out of the sky. So how many bombs has Israel dropped, and who has been arming the country? On average, an estimated 600 tons of bombs brutally landed on Gaza per day since October 7th of last year. Within only 3 months, Israel had dropped massive tons of explosives, equivalent to 5 Hiroshima nuclear bombs. And we're talking about an area far smaller than the Japanese city in 1945. Now, let's return to the question. Who has been arming Israel with this huge amount of bombs?
I am proud to say that no U.S. administration has done more in support of Israel's security than ours. None.
I did more for Israel than any other president, probably times 10.
We're surging additional military assistance to the Israeli Defense Force. We stand with Israel.
It's a pretty obvious answer. Since the war broke out in October, the US has continued to back their pledge with more than 100 separate foreign military sales to Israel, including thousands of precision-guided munitions, small diameter bombs, guns, and other lethal aid. 69% of Israel's total arms imports are from the United States. To be specific, almost all bombs dropped in Gaza belong to the United States-designed Mark 80 family, including the ones that killed 7 World Central Kitchen aid workers on April 1st, which sparked international outrage. Quite ironically, on the same day, the Biden administration approved the transfer of more than 1,000 Mark 82 500-pound bombs to Israel. Despite being outraged, President Biden still showed no hesitation to greenlight more military aid to Israel.
Our commitment to Israel's security is ironclad. Let me say it again, ironclad.
The bottomless flow of US military aid to Israel actually raises legal issues. Multiple US laws require monitoring and cutting off military aid to countries that use it to violate human rights and commit war crimes. One such law is the Leahy Law, which clearly prohibits the use of US weapons in violation of human rights standards. But when it comes to Israel, there is little or basically no scrutiny.
Broadly speaking, Israel is a democracy, and Israel does have checks and balances inside its system. We will continue to monitor and make our own assessments.
The legal and moral flexibility we've seen from Washington in the Israeli case is, to say the least, mind-blowing. Another thing with the non-stop weapon shipments to Israel is probably money. I mean, a lot of money. Right after the war broke out in Gaza, the US weapon makers instantly saw their stocks increase by more than 10% in just a few days. This is General Dynamics. Their stock prices continued to rise afterwards. It is the company that produces the Mark 80 family, in case you forgot, the bombs Israel used to drop on Gaza. Every year, $3.8 billion of American taxpayer dollars will go to Israel thanks to a deal signed by the Obama administration. And on top of that, President Biden has been considering another $14 billion in new funding for US military aid for Israel. Here's the tricky part. Most of the aid is provided as grants that Israel must use to purchase US military equipment and services. That means most of that money will ultimately go back to the US and to US weapon makers like Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, and General Dynamics. This might explain the endless flow of US weapons into Israel. For the United States, it gets to bolster the military-industrial complex with massive weapon sales. And for Israel, it gets to build one of the most powerful militaries in the world, while simultaneously becoming the most valuable US ally in the Middle East.
Were there not an Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel.
It's the single greatest strength America has in the Middle East.
No American president will let Israel go down the tube. Democrat or Republican, it's not an issue.
America stands for peace, and so does Israel.
Uncle Sam's love for Israel has essentially granted the Jewish state a free pass for its actions on Gaza. But with increasing international anger against Israel, America's continuous military support is bound to face unprecedented pressure.